Question, Madam Vice President, are you, as leaders in government, really living the same reality as described by these people? Like in that quote of the UPND, are you also living in hallucinations or in a bubble not to see the suffering of the Zambians?
Not at all. I think your sightings or quotations that you have used, there are so many that I can't even remember exactly what it was. But I think this government has always taken responsibility for what is going on. But we always put what is going on in context, because life did not start in 2021, August. Life began before. The economic situation is before. So we will not take it as an excuse. We take responsibility. In taking responsibility, remember there are two responsibilities in a situation: the cause and what you are doing about it. So when we look at the cause of this reality that we are facing of the cost of living and probably the kwacha, you may talk about it if you want, the inflation, we have to speak always in context. And therefore, you cannot leave out the cause and jump to solutions. Because if you don't know the cause, you can never find a solution to any problem. And therefore, when we refer, somebody says PF this, PF that. When we refer to PF, because that's the foundation, that's what we found. And we are tackling what we found. And there is no way we can avoid talking about PF, not to push what we must do today to them. But we are working on undoing the negatives that were left. That becomes our responsibility.
So I think the biggest discomfort, Madam Vice President, for many Zambians is that we are 2.5 years probably into the New Dawn administration. In other democracies, this can be described as a midterm, election. The UPND was voted into power on the campaign premise that you knew and the Zambians knew that they were going through bad economic management under the PF. So you promised fiscal and prudent financial management, you promised reduced cost of living, you promised better micro and macroeconomic indicators. So I think what the people are asking you is not wrong, is to keep you accountable. 2.5 years, that have you delivered on this? And allow me just to make comparisons of a few indicators between 2021 and now. Inflation, for example, in 2021 was at 22.2%. It is now at 13%.
Inflation, not 24?
I'm quoting the central bank.
Okay. Inflation?
22.02%.
Okay.
And now it's at 13.2%.
Great.
Millimil was at 123 kwacha per 25 kilogram bag. It's now ranging between 231 kwacha to about 320, depending on where you're buying it from. A 2.5 container liter of cooking oil in 2021 was at 119 kwacha and now fetching for around 127 kwacha. Petrol in 2021, 17 kwacha 62 ngwe, now at 34 kwacha 19. The exchange rate, the kwacha to the dollar, in 2021 at 19 kwacha 29 ngwe, now as of last week Friday, according to the central bank, at 25.45 kwacha. The monetary policy rate, 10%, now increased to 12.5%. Statutory reserve ratio in 2021 at 9%, now up to 26%. Unemployment was at 6.2% and now has gone down to 6.1%. So there are a few sticky areas, Madam Vice President, especially on petrol, the statutory reserve ratio, the cost of living, that even if you score on inflation, the cost of living is still high.
Yeah. Thank you, Costa. You have listed so many things that my head, I don't know whether I would respond to all of them. One would have thought maybe you would go through in a manner that there are things that you would want me to speak
Maybe
to.
let's start with the issue of, inflation.
Yes.
I remember last year during the question time for the Vice President in Parliament on the floor when the opposition were asking you about the high cost of living. One of the things you boast of as Vice President and as leader of government business is that you are holding inflation. It could have been worse off.
It did.
If without the intervention measures.
Exactly.
But the domestic economy is crying about some of these intervention measures, Madam Vice President.
The economy is not crying about the intervention measures. The economy is crying about the general cost of living. I think that is the outcry. It's not the intervention. There is no negative intervention that the community or the society can cry about. Indeed, from what you have read, if I followed you right, you have acknowledged that the inflation has gone down. I think you did acknowledge. You talked of 22 to 13. Yes, in fact, we had gone to single digit, remember, since we came into power. I think what we need to do is to look back. The important part is, are we going towards the right direction? Let us look at the cost of, for example, fuel. The cost of fuel will very much be related to something else you may talk about, or you even indicated, the issue of the dollar. Because we buy fuel in dollar. As a country, we purchase fuel in dollar. So if our kwacha is weak compared to the dollar, that is obvious that the fuel will be expensive. Then you will say, why is our kwacha weak? Of course, we found it weak. You know, I will not shy away to mention the fact that I don't know whether you mentioned the dollar issue and kwacha. We found it.
2021 was at 19.2.
No. When we came in, remember my president said as soon as we come in, this is something people would want to mock about. That when the president was saying immediately we come in, the dollar, the kwacha will appreciate. And when we came in, we didn't find it at 19 there.
But I'm quoting Central Bank figures.
Well, I am also quoting what was on the market. Even Central Bank will tell you that it was 22 when we came in. 22 kwacha per dollar. And this went down to as low as 15.
So Madam Vice President,
maybe I have to bring out what I want to say.
So according to Central Bank figures that we had, yes, from 19.2 it came down to around 16. When you took over.
No. You are talking about probably the end of whichever month. I'm talking of August. So you can go back to August. By September, it had dropped down to 15 plus, 16, that range. So what is that? In fact, if they tell you, you do your mathematics, you may find that actually from the time we came in, immediately we came in, there was no issue of having traded to bring in the dollar, but just what the president used to talk about, what we talked about in opposition, the confidence that the international community saw brought the goodwill. That goodwill is when people start committing and they are excited to bring investment. It brought down
but
the
dollar rate.
The kwacha. The kwacha, appreciated.
But Madam Vice President,
am I saying anything?
No, you are, and I'm just making follow-up. I'm just making follow-ups.
To make a point, yes.
So whether we found the dollar at 19 or 22, from what you're saying, to 15 point, let's just agree you and me on 16.
Right.
On 16. We agreed it's an appreciation.
Indeed.
But I think the business community is concerned about consistency and stability for planning. So from 16, you'll agree with me that it has unpredictably gone up to almost not so long ago, a few weeks ago, to touching 28.
No.
It's very bad for business planning. So how can you boast that, yes, we found it at 22
because
and reduced it? It didn't hold.
Costa, I haven't even finished telling me what I would want to say. The point is we are working hard. It's important, yes, that there is stability in the kwacha. Anybody, whether economist or not, even my kitchen economics will tell you that we need a stable dollar. But how do you destabilize the dollar? That should be the question that you should ask me, because we find a very volatile situation. How was the situation? You know, the dollar is not abracadabra. It's not by pronouncement. You have to be able to sell something to get the dollar. What have we been selling? We found ourselves, that's why, if you remember, the dollar, that's why maybe we are even arguing at 19 and 22 and 24. We can argue that because there was a free fall. Every single day, we started seeing that. You know, the dollar was getting more and more expensive. The kwacha was just falling. Why? We should ask ourselves. That is the situation we found ourselves in, and if there was no winning, the dollar would have continued, because there was nothing else that was going to hold the dollar. Because, one, you have to look at where do we get the dollar mainly? Where do we earn our foreign exchange as a country? Yes, we have dreams, but as at now, from that time up to now, our main foreign exchange earner is copper. And our colleagues mismanaged the copper mining. You will realize that the copper, Mopani, Glencore had left them with literally no capital. A very bad arrangement where they left, because to them it was not viable, and yet government inherited close to 1.2, 1.5 billion. They said they had to pay Glencore. Where from? There's no capital to even mine properly. And you know that has been the situation for Mopani. What were they thinking about? Where was the money in the treasury to invest? Even if you say let Zambians invest, how did they expect the Zambian government to invest? That means that foreign earner was out. KCM was under liquidation and was literally being stripped off. There was no earning. FQM, First Quantum, mine, was also on the way out because of the inconsistent policies in the mining sector. That is loss of foreign exchange. Whether you talk of Lumwana, I'm just looking at the big mines. All these were literally, not operating to capacity so that they can bring in the kwacha. You sell your copper, you bring in the dollar. And it is the more dollar you bring in, the more strong, or the stronger the kwacha gets. But that was a problem. And this is the problem. We are working, Costa, to see, in fact, you can tell that right now we are working, Mopani is getting resuscitated.
So we'll be coming to the mining sector, but again, to
because
quote,
we are related, it's difficult.
No, I agree. I just want to react as you're responding on the kwacha.
Okay.
You said at the beginning that to every effect there is a cause.
Indeed.
So I agree with you. You were trying to explain the cause of why we're not selling anything as a country, and you described the situation you found as a free-falling kwacha.
Indeed.
How then would you describe what is currently happening? Because you inherited problems that you knew of when you were in the opposition and promised solutions to these problems.
Exactly.
So, but would we describe that from 2021 August, the exchange rate falls to 16 kwacha, and now it's just fluctuating crazily around 25 to 28?
That is not even crazy. You have to do comparison as to what is happening in the global economy. You also must do that. That's not comfort to the Zambians, but that's reality. That's reality. So what you should ask me is, what are we doing to try and improve on this instability of the kwacha, the exchange rate? I think this is where you should ask me. That's why I thought I could comprehensively give you the picture that we are working hard.
Hence my question is, if you describe what you found as free falling,
yes,
how would you describe what is currently obtaining as stable?
Oh, it is, you have to see how low did we fall. Colleagues, it's important that even when we are reasoning out among ourselves, we say, where would we be? Because it's important. Where would we be? That's a very important question. And if we would have been there, why are we here? If we would have been better, then you should ask me that, what have you done? But we would have been worse. But we brought it down, and then it starts falling. You know, the words down and up can be confusing, but I hope you do understand. We brought the kwacha, we strengthened the kwacha. So the rising, actually, they will tell you it dropped 30, it has risen 31 since we came in. It is because we were able to hold it. How were we able to hold it? The goodwill helped us. How are we able to hold it? That goodwill has helped us bring in $1, even from, you know, from IMF, you know, that World Bank. All these are things we have done. If we didn't bring in this goodwill and the negotiations going on, which you probably would want to talk about the restructuring, where would we be if nothing was coming in? Do you think we would have been where we are?
But even with these interventions of what you're doing...
These interventions are helping, but not
this is
enough.
Not the rate, but this is not the rate that certainly you promised and is good enough.
Not at all. But remember also, this is not the rate. We would want things better.
Let me give you a small personal, practical example,
yes.
Madam Vice President.
Yes.
In November last year, the station of Diamond TV acquired football rights to show the Africa Cup in thousands of US dollars.
Yes.
We were negotiating at almost 25.4 per dollar. By the time the competition was finishing on February 11, we had hit a loss of almost 300,000 kwacha due to this instability. So what do you tell a young SME like me to gain hope that really you are planning and doing things in my favor when I'm bleeding 300,000 Zambian kwacha?
Exactly. The issue is you must have confidence. Look at the positive as you look at the negative. The free fall. I think it's you who said we went up to 27, we are here. I cannot post about that. It's also still part of the fluctuation. Some people are saying, how did it drop? Some of these are things that will begin to show because of what probably you would talk about. When you bring the dollar issue and the kwacha, we must then quickly go to the issues that will help us stabilize the kwacha. And these are the things that you probably say, let's talk later. But I'll tell you that we have to earn the dollar. For you not to have the kwacha just falling. We have to earn the dollar. It will not do, you know, for us to just talk and say the dollar. We have to earn it. How are we going to earn it? The plans are there. And there is, you know, it's good that you people talk of roadmap. Roadmap is not a point. It's a road map. It's a long distance. And when you are descent so low, then it means this roadmap must be really taken. Our plans are working and they will work. I can tell you with confidence that the plans that your government has will soon start yielding, you know, fruit. It will start yielding, my dear. You are aware that Mopani is bringing in dollar. The
question is when. But just
the question is when. It's already coming in. You are aware that we have already received.
Just to follow your lead in terms of you want us to go into the interventions, but for the sake of the viewers, forgive us on the hiss in the background sound. We are broadcasting live from Government House, and rains are heavy outside
for that.
right now. Obviously good for farmers. So please forgive us on that background sound coming through from the rains. But back to this, the depreciating kwacha has necessitated an increase in terms of intervention measures. The central bank last week held their quarterly briefing.
Right.
One of the things Dr. Denny Kalialia said was that our economy is in a critical condition, and we must do something for it not to get into runaway or hyperinflation. And this is a patient that needs surgery. So among the things that have happened, obviously, is one, the increase in the statutory reserve ratio. Again, the monetary policy rate was increased, the highest in 3 years, increasing the cost of borrowing, thereby limiting access to financing. Now, the question is then, Madam Vice President, does government recognize that these measures mean that the lives of ordinary citizens are about to even get tougher? It's time to brace for impact and tighten the belts tighter.
I think you are going to the business entity, and I agree with you. And for me, without having all this economics understanding, is that these are stopgap measures. We cannot fully depend on this. How long? It is not sustainable, but it is important. In any crisis, you invoke every other thing that can help you. Hold on, but it's hold on. It's not a permanent solution. For me, that's the way I understand this. It is to hold, the free fall. But there must be a sustainable way that will stop this free fall of the kwacha. That is important. It was important for the central bank to do that, so that we don't continue rising, because sometimes you go too far. Even when permanent measures are brought, it becomes difficult because the road becomes longer. So what they did, I commend them. But generally in our plan, those are managing our economy, but we have to plan our economy. In our planning, we must have a sustainable way to ensure that we can bring in the dollar rather than go to the, to the central bank to start working their monetary policies and also to hold the dollar from the reserves or anything like that.